The moment I stepped into that cozy, dimly lit cafe, a shiver of excitement ran through me. There he was, Alex, sitting at a corner table, his eyes lighting up the room more than the fancy chandeliers ever could. I hadn't seen him in years, yet there he was, unchanged, with that same adventurous spark I remembered. "Sarah," he greeted, his voice wrapping around me like a warm hug. That moment, I knew I was about to stir the pot of my too-perfect life. Married to Michael, the embodiment of success, I had everything a woman could dream of. A sprawling house, luxury cars, glamorous parties. Yet, standing there with Alex, I felt a rush I hadn't felt in years. We talked for hours, laughing and reminiscing, and I felt alive, truly alive. It was intoxicating. In the days that followed, I found myself thinking about Alex more than I dared to admit. Our meetings became more frequent, each moment spent with him filling me with a sense of freedom and excitement I hadn't felt with Michael in years. My marriage, once a source of pride, now felt like a gilded cage. The decision came on a restless night. Lying next to Michael, I realized our conversations had become transactions, our laughter a memory. I needed more. I wanted the passion, the adventure I felt with Alex. So, I made up my mind. I was going to leave Michael for Alex. The thought was terrifying yet thrilling. The confrontation with Alex was nothing like I had imagined. I had rehearsed my speech, expecting open arms and shared dreams. Instead, I was met with shock and rejection. "Sarah, I'm your friend, but this. I don't feel that way about you," Alex stammered, his words slicing through me like ice. I stood there, numb, as my fantasy crumbled around me. Returning to Michael was my only option, yet the man who once promised to stand by me in sickness and in health couldn't look me in the eye. "I can't, Sarah. You broke us," he said, his voice void of the warmth I once adored. The door to our home, our life together, closed with a finality that left me breathless. My new reality was a cramped apartment, a stark contrast to the life I had left behind. The loneliness was suffocating, my only company the echoes of my choices. Friends became strangers, avoiding my calls, whispering about my downfall. My family's disappointment was palpable, their words of comfort laced with judgment. I had become the architect of my own misery, a reality I faced with each passing day. I never imagined desperation could feel so suffocating, like being trapped in a room with walls inching closer by the second. "That's me, Sarah," clawing for a sliver of hope, dialing Michael's number for the umpteenth time only to be met with the cold, impersonal beep of a call rejected. Each attempt to reach out, each message sent, swallowed by the void he's placed between us. Blocked on all platforms, he's made his message crystal clear. Michael's moved on, and I'm nothing but a ghost from his past. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, doesn't it? At Jenna's engagement party, amidst the buzz of laughter and clinking glasses, I see him. Michael. He's there, looking every bit the part of the successful businessman I fell in love with, but now there's an ice-cold barrier in his eyes. Our accidental eye contact is a silent battle. His gaze cuts through me, unyielding and distant. "Sarah," he nods, the greeting void of any warmth. It's a dismissal, a clear sign he's closed the chapter on us. My heart sinks. The rejection stings sharper in the flesh. Work used to be my escape, my domain where I reigned supreme. But lately, it's been anything but. My focus is shattered. My performance, a shadow of its former excellence. "Sarah, this isn't like you." My boss's words echo in my head, a warning that I'm skating on thin ice. The fear of losing my job adds another layer to the mountain of anxiety I'm already under. Then the letters start coming. At first, they seem like a cruel joke, anonymous notes hinting at secrets only a few know. But as they pile up, their tone darkens, each message more menacing than the last. "We know what you did," one reads, sending chills down my spine. My mind races. Could it be Michael? Alex? Who else knows my sins so intimately? Paranoia becomes my constant companion. I scrutinize every glance, every whisper, wondering if they're behind the letters. It's maddening, this feeling of being watched, judged by an unseen jury. In a moment of desperation, I reach out to Alex, hoping against hope he might shed some light. But the door is slammed shut with his terse reply, "Sarah, you've made your bed. I want no part in this drama." Rejection. Again, this time from the man I thought I wanted over everything else. The climax of this twisted saga comes unexpectedly. Another letter. But this one bears a signature, Emily, Michael's new partner. The realization hits me like a ton of bricks. Emily, the woman who's taken my place by Michael's side, is my tormentor. She knew about the affair, my betrayal, and this has been her way of exacting revenge. The world seems to spin as I absorb the gravity of my situation. Here I am, ensnared in a web of my own making, facing the consequences of my actions. Michael, the man I left everything for, now sees me as nothing more than a distant memory, a mistake to be forgotten. My job, once my pride, now teeters on the brink of collapse under the weight of my personal life spilling over. And Emily, the woman scorned, revels in my downfall, pulling strings from the shadows. In the thick of a relentless night, my world unraveled at the seams, thread by bitter thread. There I was, standing outside the sleek downtown bar, the chill of the evening biting through my jacket, waiting for Emily, the woman who unwittingly became the cornerstone of my ruin. Sarah, this obsession with Michael, it's got to stop. Emily's voice sliced through the cold air, her words edged with a firmness that brooked no argument. I had rehearsed this confrontation 1,000 times in my mind, each scenario ending with Emily crumbling under the weight of my accusations. Yet, standing before her, the reality was starkly different. You don't understand, Emily. This isn't just about him. It's about fairness, I stammered, my voice less confident than I had imagined. Emily's laugh was short, devoid of humor. Fairness? You're talking about fairness after everything you've done? Her scorn was a physical slap, the irony of my quest for justice not lost on me. Fueled by desperation and a sense of injustice, I had embarked on a dangerous game, weaving a web of lies and rumors intended to tarnish Emily's reputation. Social media became my weapon of choice, each post a carefully crafted grenade lobbed into her life. But my plans, however cunning, were not foolproof. Betrayal came from where I least expected it. A so-called friend who, in a twist of fate, revealed my machinations to Michael. The fallout was catastrophic. Michael's confrontation was the final nail in the coffin of our already buried relationship. I can't even look at you, Sarah. What you've done. It's unforgivable, he had said, the finality in his voice echoing in my ears long after our conversation ended. His words were a clear delineation of where we stood, worlds apart and forever divided. The aftermath of my actions was swift and brutal. My professional life, once a source of pride and accomplishment, crumbled as my performance plummeted. The warning from my boss was a mere formality, a prelude to the inevitable dismissal that followed. In the span of weeks, my life transformed into a cautionary tale. Once a respected professional with a vibrant social life, now a pariah, shunned by those who once called me friend. The isolation was suffocating, a constant companion in the empty apartment that felt too large, too quiet. The echoes of my choices haunted me, a relentless specter from which there was no escape. There was no solace in solitude, no wisdom gleaned from reflection, only the bitter taste of regret and the crushing weight of loneliness. This chapter of my life, marked by vengeance and downfall, was a testament to the folly of my actions. In my blind quest for retribution, I had lost everything that once mattered. The job that provided both livelihood and identity was gone. The man I convinced myself I loved, forever out of reach. And my reputation, once untarnished, now irreparably stained. In the deafening silence of my isolation, I realized the harsh truth. In seeking to destroy Emily, I had only succeeded in destroying myself. My story, a stark reminder of the price of vengeance, was a narrative devoid of heroes, only cautionary tales and shattered lives. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps me out and lets me know you appreciate the content. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Subscribing is a great way to stay updated with all the latest videos and to be part of our growing community. It's quick, it's free, and it ensures you won't miss out on any upcoming content. So go ahead, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Your support means a lot and keeps this channel going. Thanks for watching. The moment I stepped into the dimly lit room, the air felt charged, like a storm was about to break. This is it, I whispered to myself, the words barely escaping my lips. The desperation of the past few months had led me here, standing on the precipice of change, or so I hoped. Clutching the classified section of the local newspaper like a lifeline, I dialed yet another number, my heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. Hello? A voice on the other end answered, brisk and businesslike. Hi. I saw your ad for the administrative position. I'm Sarah, and I'm very interested, I replied, trying to inject a confidence into my voice that I hadn't felt in weeks. The conversation that followed was a familiar dance of questions and carefully curated answers, but this time something felt different. There was a glimmer of hope, a slight warmth in the voice on the other end that hadn't been there before. We'll be in touch, they said, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I allowed myself to believe it might be true. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Just as I started to envision a path forward, the shadows of my past crept back, determined to pull me down. Emily, with her perfectly crafted veneer of innocence, was behind it all. The whispers at cafes, the sidelong glances in the street, the closed doors, it was her. She was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost haunting my every step, orchestrating my downfall with a precision that left me breathless. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks one cold morning when yet another job opportunity vanished into thin air, the employer's voice cold and distant over the phone. We've heard some troubling things, Sarah. We're going to have to go in a different direction. The line went dead, and the silence that followed was deafening. Enough was enough. Fueled by a mixture of rage and desperation, I confronted Emily in the most public way I knew, social media. Calling her out, demanding an end to her vendetta. But I underestimated her, and the confrontation spiraled out of control, culminating in a face-to-face showdown that was nothing short of explosive. Words were weapons, and we wielded them without mercy, drawing a crowd that thirsted for drama like it was water in a desert. The altercation ended with flashing lights and handcuffs, our heated exchange now evidence in a case that seemed as surreal as it was nightmarish. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Overnight, my name became synonymous with scandal. The details of our fight splashed across every screen and whispered in every corner. Michael's statement of support for Emily was the final nail in the coffin of our shared past. With a few carefully chosen words, he erased what little dignity I had left, publicly declaring his allegiance to her, to their life without me. The legal fees piled up, a mountain of debt that I had no hope of conquering. My savings, once a safety net, now lay in ruins, spent on a defense that did little to stem the tide of public opinion. The apartment I had clung to, a modest space that was my last bastion of independence, slipped through my fingers, forcing me into a reality I could have never imagined. A cramped, dingy room in a part of the city I had always avoided. The job hunt became my daily torment, a Sisyphean task that left me exhausted and demoralized. Each rejection was a reminder of how far I had fallen, of the chasm between the life I once had and the shadow of existence I now occupied. As I lay in the darkness of my new reality, the silence oppressive and all-consuming, I realized the bitter truth. My attempts to rebuild, to find some semblance of redemption, had been nothing more than a fool's errand. Emily's vendetta, fueled by a betrayal that now seemed like a lifetime ago, had left me with nothing. No home, no job, no hope. The morning sun hadn't even cracked the horizon, but there I was, wide awake and plotting. It sounds like the start of a bad crime novel, doesn't it? Except, in my case, the crime was against me. Betrayal, they say, comes from those closest to you, and ain't that the truth? Alex, my once trusted confidant, had turned his back, siding with Emily and Michael. The trio made my life a living nightmare, painting me as the villain in their twisted narrative. I wasn't about to let their lies define me. No, I had a plan. Redemption was my endgame, a chance to clear my name and snatch back some semblance of dignity from the jaws of their deceit. My days and nights melded into one long surveillance operation. I was on a mission, collecting every scrap of evidence that Emily wasn't the saint she portrayed herself to be. My obsession with exposing her grew with each passing day, blurring the lines between determination and desperation. One night, driven by a reckless surge of courage, I found myself outside Emily's office. The plan was simple. Get in, find anything incriminating, and get out before anyone was the wiser. Except, plans rarely go as intended, do they? The moment I stepped inside, the weight of what I was doing hit me. This was breaking and entering, Sarah. What are you thinking? But the thought of turning back, of giving up, was even more unbearable. I rummaged through files and emails, my heart racing with every click and turn of the page. And then, the unmistakable flash of a security camera snapped me back to reality. Caught. The evidence of my trespassing now securely recorded. The police didn't knock on my door. They barged in, their judgment clear in their eyes. Arrested again. The words of the officer echoed in my mind as they led me away, a mix of pity and disdain coloring his tone. My image, already hanging by a thread, was now irreparably tarnished. The trial was a spectacle, the courtroom packed with hungry eyes eager to witness my downfall. The prosecution painted me as a jealous, vindictive ex-wife, hell-bent on destroying the happiness of others. My desperate search for justice was twisted into an act of petty revenge. The gavel fell, and with it, my hopes. Guilty. Sentenced to community service, a public display of my supposed penance. Community service was torture. Every day, I was a spectacle, recognized and harassed by those who saw me not as a person, but as a character in the drama of Emily's making. The whispers, the stares, the outright insults, it was a daily gauntlet, each word a reminder of how far I'd fallen. As I picked up trash on the side of the road, a part of me wondered if this was it. Was this the sum total of my existence now? Each piece of litter, a metaphor for my shattered life, discarded and overlooked. But amidst the humiliation and despair, a stubborn spark of defiance flickered. This wasn't the end of my story, it couldn't be. My downfall, orchestrated by those I once trusted, was but a chapter in my life, not the conclusion. With every piece of trash I collected, I vowed to myself. I would rise again, not for revenge, but for redemption. My journey was far from over, and though the road ahead was uncertain, I was determined to walk it with my head held high. The world had seen me at my lowest, but I would show them all, one day, how Sarah could rebuild from the ruins. The second I saw him, notebook in hand, that look in his eyes, half pity, half curiosity, I should have known. Reporters don't just stumble into stories like mine without looking to stir the pot. But there I was, desperate for a shred of understanding, or maybe just a chance to clear my name. Maybe this is it, I thought, my shot at redemption. How wrong I was. Sarah, I'm Tom. I've been following your story. It's, quite something. Mind if we talk? His voice was smooth, too smooth. I hesitated, then figured I had nothing left to lose. Maybe, just maybe, someone would finally hear my side without the cloud of judgment. We met at a coffee shop, the kind of place where whispers and side glances were the norm for me now. Tom's recorder sat on the table between us, a silent threat masquerading as a lifeline. I told him everything, the betrayal, the humiliation, my failed attempts at revenge. The words poured out, raw and unfiltered. For a moment, I let myself hope. When the article hit, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. My phone buzzed relentlessly, texts and notifications flooding in, each one a dagger. Local woman's downfall, the headline screamed, a sordid tale of jealousy and vendetta. My heart sank. Tom's piece twisted my words, painting me as the villain in my own tragedy. The public ate it up, their thirst for scandal unquenchable. I confronted Tom, but he just shrugged, a predator satisfied with his kill. It's what sells, Sarah. I'm sorry you don't see it that way. His apology was a slap in the face, empty and cruel. The fallout was immediate. Any sympathy I might have garnered evaporated overnight. My phone, once a lifeline, became a source of endless torment. Emily's final warning came through clear and cold, a text that cut deeper than any article. Leave town, or it gets worse. This is your last chance. I looked around the small, cramped space I now called home, a far cry from the life I once knew. The walls seemed to close in on me, suffocating, a constant reminder of how far I'd fallen. With nothing left to hold onto, no job, no friends, just a name tarnished beyond recognition, I made the decision. Packing was a sobering affair, each item a relic of a past life. I left under the cover of darkness, the city that once held so much promise now a prison. The drive was long, each mile a step further from the chaos, but the weight of my past hung heavy. There was no real escape. The rearview mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, a shell of the confident person I once was. The road ahead was uncertain, a path fraught with shadows of regret and what-ifs. But it was a path I had to take. Maybe, just maybe, somewhere out there was a place where I could start over, where my past wouldn't define my future. But as the city lights faded into the distance, a harsh truth settled in. You can change your scenery, your name, even your story, but some stains, they stick. And mine? It was indelible. The minute I stepped off the bus into the bustling streets of a city that promised anonymity, my heart was racing, a cocktail of fear and determination pumping through my veins. New city, new me, I muttered under my breath, clutching my single suitcase like a shield against the unknown. Gone were the luxurious trappings of my old life, replaced by a gritty determination to start over, to lay low and rebuild from the ashes of my former self. Finding a job was priority one. With little money to my name and no references I could safely use without dragging my past into my present, I hit the pavement. The "Help Wanted" sign in the window of a quaint, somewhat rundown cafe seemed almost too good to be true. I can do this, I assured myself, pushing the door open with more confidence than I felt. The cafe owner, a kind-eyed woman named Marla, didn't ask too many questions. Maybe she saw something in me, a desperation or a determination that mirrored her own struggles. Or maybe she just needed an extra pair of hands. Either way, I was grateful. The work was hard, and the pay was minimal, but it was honest, and it was a start. Adjusting to this new, simpler life was a challenge. The shadows of my past loomed large, threatening to swallow the fragile piece I'd begun to carve out for myself. I kept my head down, focusing on the rhythm of daily tasks, allowing the monotony to lull the chaos in my mind into a semblance of calm. But the realization that my actions had consequences, a web of lies and betrayals that extended far beyond my own suffering, was a bitter pill to swallow. Regret gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the bridges I'd burned. Just when I thought I might be able to make a go of it, a mysterious figure from my past appeared, shattering the fragile bubble I'd constructed around my new life. It was a casual encounter on the street, a glance exchanged with someone whose face was hauntingly familiar. A ghost from a life I was desperate to forget. The recognition in their eyes was unmistakable, and with it came the threat of exposure. They wasted no time, confronting me in a shadowed alleyway one evening after my shift at the cafe. "Thought you could just start over, did you?" The figure taunted, their voice a chilling mix of amusement and menace. "Your past has a way of catching up with you, Sarah. You can't outrun it." The threat was clear. Expose my new life to the tattered remnants of my old one, or face the consequences. The fear that had been simmering beneath the surface boiled over, leaving me with a stark choice. Confront this figure from my past or lose everything I'd worked so hard to build. The standoff that followed was tense, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse played out in the shadows of the life I'd attempted to construct. I pleaded, I threatened, I begged, but in the end, it was futile. My new life was exposed, my lies laid bare for Marla and the small circle of acquaintances I'd begun to form to see. The fallout was swift and merciless. I lost my job, my reputation, such as it was, in my new home tarnished beyond repair. With no other options, I fled once again, leaving behind the fragments of a life that could have been, but never would be. As I boarded another bus, destination unknown, the weight of my regrets was a tangible presence, suffocating and inescapable. My story, a cautionary tale of betrayal and revenge, had come full circle. There was no redemption, no second chances. Just the road ahead, and the knowledge that some actions are beyond forgiveness, some bridges too thoroughly burned to ever be